Well, to catch up, I'm going to do several short videos covering a couple topics of where I've been for the past year. A year? So my primary doctor agreed that this needed to be looked at because it had gotten quite concerning, the size that it was. And he referred me to an ear, nose, and throat guy. So when I went to that guy, he checked it out and he said, funny thing that you showed up here with this. He said, last week there was a woman in my office with the very same thing. And he said, it's the second time I've seen this in my 30 plus years or whatever, being a ear, nose, and throat guy or something, he said. So it's kind of a rare thing, he said. But he also wasn't quite sure. He had an idea what it was, but he wasn't positive. He said that the first thing he kind of thought that it might be was a Warthin's tumor. But then he said he had ruled that out because I've quit smoking 12 years ago. And he felt that that could not be a Warthin's tumor. So he referred me to go get an x-ray. That was the first test. So after I got an x-ray, I went back to the ear, nose, and throat guy. And he said that the x-ray was inconclusive. And that he wanted to try to get a biopsy and see if that would help. And he said basically it's stick a needle in there, withdraw some cell matter, and send it off for pathology report. Well, he put the needle in there and he said, oh, that's not good. And I said, what's that mean? And he said, all I'm getting is blood. And he said, I'm not getting any, he said, for lack of a better way to describe it, tissue. He wanted to extract tissue or some type of cells, I guess. I'm not sure how he was putting it. But he said all he was getting was blood, and that was not good enough for a biopsy. So then he said, you're just going to have to go get a CAT scan. So off I went to the hospital to get test number 3, because there was an x-ray, biopsy, CAT scan. Came and got the CAT scan, went back to the doctor. Got a picture of the CAT scan. He said he was still not sure because he disagreed with the guy who read the CAT scan, because the guy who read the CAT scan said, I believe this is a Warthin's tumor. Ear, nose, and throat guy said, I don't think it's a Warthin's tumor. He goes, I'm going to send you for an MRA, not an MRI, an MRA, which is specifically looking at arteries. And so off I went for this test. I suppose at this point I should make note that I've been trying to experiment with my audio. For some reason, the audio on my webcam was sounding really muted. So I busted out this old other microphone, external microphone that I had bought, and it sounds incredibly tinny. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do about this audio. So the MRA, MRA was an experience. That's the one most people don't like. It's like a tube that they put you in, and man, oh man, if you got claustrophobia, which I do, this machine will freak you right out because you got to slide in there, and it's a good 25 minutes or so that you have to stay in there while this thing takes pictures. And the first one I went to was not big enough. Yeah. When I got in there, they squeezed me into it, and my shoulders were like this. I swear they were up around my ears. And she said they couldn't perform the MRA like that, so they were going to have to send me to a different facility that had what they call an open MRA, which sounded good, but no, you're still inside a tube. So off I went to another facility to have MRA in the open tube. And for that one, you get a IV in your arm. They inject this contrast solution in your arm, and you got to wait and make sure it doesn't hurt, because if they do it wrong, it causes a great deal of pain. And it worked out okay. And they put me in a cage. This square box was, I had to put my head in it, and then they closed it over my head, and I'm telling you, I felt like Hannibal Lecter. That in itself was pretty freaky. And then they slide you into the machine, and they tell you, you can hear them talking. They'll say, this one part of the test is going to be 5 minutes, and this one will be 6 minutes, and this one's going to be, you know, whatever. And I think I was inside the machine for, like, I think they told me I was in there for 25 minutes, 26 minutes. But when the machine starts up, it's like a freight train is running over your head. Bang, 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 bang. It was unfreaking believable, and it lasted for, I think, 26 minutes. I couldn't wait to get out of that thing. So once my ear, nose, and throat guy got the results of the MRA, he said, I'm going to have to refer you to a neurosurgeon out in Buffalo. And he goes, they will work together on my case, as they still weren't sure what this thing in my neck was. So he scheduled me to meet with the neurosurgeon and begin the next step. So now I had to go out to Buffalo for this, to meet with the neurosurgeon to discuss what we're going to do next after I've had all these tests so far. So I go to Buffalo, I meet with the neurosurgeon, big, huge, fancy office building, very, very ritzy and snazzy. That must be part of what they did with the huge bills they charge you. And of course, you have to have your copay with you up front or they won't even see you. And that was pretty wild. So I met with the neurosurgeon. He comes in, and after I had to wait for him for over half an hour, he was late. And he comes flying in and tells me that they're going to do surgery on my neck. And I said, wait a minute, surgery? No one's even told me what it is. Oh, he said, I've looked at the test results you've had done so far. And he said, I believe it's what we call a bloody tumor. And I said, a bloody tumor? What the hell is that? And then he told me an AV something, arterial vascular, AVM, arterial vascular malformation. That this thing grew off of one of my arteries or whatever, and it's a vein, and it's now got to be removed. And the next thing he wants to schedule me for is an angiogram. And he said, we're going to put a little tube in your femoral artery, which is the one in your groin, snake that tube all the way up through my leg, up through my chest and everything, and then up into my neck. And it's going to have a little camera where they're going to be able to look at that thing, take pictures, and fully decide what it is and what the plan of action is. So then they scheduled me for the angiogram, which was test number, I don't know, I lost track. 5? Test number 5, I think. So the angiogram was scheduled, and they sent me notice that I needed to bring in my copay of $348, or they would not perform this procedure. It needed to be brought in before they would even sign me up for this test that I was supposed to be scheduled for. And fortunately for me, now I've been documenting on Facebook my progress, what was going on with this lump in my neck. And lo and behold, my sister got in touch with me and said an angel had contacted her and had been following my story and wanted to help me out, knowing that I don't make a lot of money. And they wanted to pay that copay for me, and they sent $348 to her. Later, she did tell me who it was, which is you just never know when God touches somebody, who they touch and why. But her name was Kathy. And she was originally a friend of my little brother who has passed away. And that's how I met her. And she's a really wonderful person. And apparently she had retired from her job with the post office and felt the need to give back. And it was fortunate for me. It was me she felt the need to give back to. And she paid for that copay. So I was very grateful. Still am very grateful. She's a wonderful lady. Thank you again, Kathy, if you should see this. So off I go for the angiogram. I go in the hospital. I get IVs put in me, just fluids, I guess it was. And they explained to me that they're going to numb the area. They're going to make an incision in my groin, put the tube in, and snake it up there. I will be awake. They're going to be watching everything on a big screen TV next to where I'll be laying. And when it's all over with, they'll throw a stitch or two in the groin. And there's actually going to be a little clamp thing that they're going to put in there that stays in my groin, and after 90 days, it will simply dissolve. And that they'll give me instructions on that and the care of the area where the stitches will be. And it sounded pretty simple. So I got in there, got in the gown, and then they wheeled me off to surgery. They have to slide from the gurney onto the operating table, and they get you all strapped in. And they started the procedure, which seemed to go pretty good. They gave me medicine that numbed the area, and it wasn't until the end of the procedure. It was fast too. It was like, I don't know, 15 minutes. But all of a sudden, it felt like somebody with steel nails was grabbing me in my groin and squeezing me real hard. And I said, holy crap. I said, that hurts, that hurts. Oh, it's okay. We're almost done. I said, you are killing me. I don't know what. It felt like it was twisting and pinching. And I said, that really hurts. And I had tears coming out of my eyes. And I said, you got to give me something for that pain. I said, this hurts terrible. So he said, well, we're just about done. And he said to the nurse, give her some more Versed, nothing happened. And finally, they were done. Thank God, and it was relief. But it had like an ache to it after they finished. And they said what that pain was is the guy was putting in that little clampy thing, which was clamping off the artery so it would no longer bleed. I guess is the way they'd explained it. And then they sewed me up and I was done. But I was really upset that I had to suffer with that pain because it was really like a knife being stabbed and twisted. I'm not sure quite how to explain how it felt, but it was really, really painful. And I was pretty upset that they, whatever they had given me for the entire procedure appears to have worn off, and that's why I felt that at the end. And I was kind of mad because I am big. They should have known that to calculate the anesthesia properly and not make me have to feel that pain. Little did I know that pain was nothing compared to what was going to happen. So after the results of the angiogram were in, my ear, nose, and throat guy scheduled me back in his office to go over the results and discuss the next steps in this journey of the lump. So what he said is that he was going to perform the surgery, but he was going to have a procedure done first by that neurologist who had done the angiogram, where the numbing medication wore off and I was in excruciating pain for the last 10 minutes or so of that procedure. And I told my ear, nose, and throat guy that I was not happy that I was subjected to that kind of pain and that they did nothing about it. And it better not happen again. And he said, oh, he spoke to the neurosurgeon and he said the neurosurgeon was under the impression that you were aware that it is a painful procedure. Why would anyone subject themselves to a painful procedure without asking for some kind of numbing medicine or whatever? So I told him, I said, they better be aware that they need to give me more so I don't suffer on this next procedure, which was another angiogram. Only this one, they were going to put the tube back in again and go up in where that tumor was. And he said they were going to inject a substance that was like a glue to close off all the vessels, because by now they had decided that that this mass was being fed by a whole bunch of veins, and that before they could remove it in surgery, they wanted to plug off all the little veins that were attached to it. So they were going to put like glue in there, which would solidify within the vein and cause the vein to dry up and close. That's what they said the next procedure was going to be. So scheduled that procedure. Back I go out to Buffalo. Another copay of $348. This one I paid on my own because I actually had enough money after paying all my bills this time to pay for it. Thank you, God, for giving me a job that I make money. And went in for this procedure, same as before. Had a hospital bed. Got IVs. Got into the surgery. They put me in the operating table and they started the procedure, and immediately the pain started. I said, I can't believe this is happening again. And I said, it is killing me. I said, why am I feeling this pain? And I said, you've got to do something. I said, this is, and I'm hanging on, and I was in so much pain. I thought I was going to throw up. I thought I was going to pass out. And he's yelling at me, don't move, quit moving. And I'm like, I wouldn't be moving if I wasn't in pain. And he goes, oh, for crying out loud, give her some more Versed and some fentanyl or something, I think he said. The pain never stopped. I basically don't know how I didn't pass out. But finally, thank God, the procedure was over. I was friggin' exhausted. And then you have to lay on a certain way for 4 hours. You can't change from that position. You can't lay on your side. You can't, whatever. For 4 hours, you have to lay in that one position. Let me tell you, the pain in my back was unbelievable. And they gave me Tylenol, of course. Man, that procedure was just ridiculous. I couldn't wait to get out of there. So that night, they finally decided I was ready to go home. So I was in the hospital, I don't know, something like 8 hours or whatever it was. And my son and my granddaughter came and picked me up and took me back home, where I was to wait for the results of yet that test. So, and by the way, I don't know if most of you have ever heard this before. I work at a hospital. I work in the emergency room at the local hospital. So a lot of this stuff I am aware of, but I'm just appalled at some of the stuff that I was subjected to. So meanwhile, this procedure was done. I was furious and intended to send a letter to the hospital detailing my experience with this particular doctor. So now this procedure was done at one hospital, and then I was supposed to go back to a second hospital to actually have the surgery to remove the tumor. And everybody in my family is like, why wouldn't they have done it right there at the same hospital? Well, the neurosurgeon liked the hospital he was in, and my ear, nose, and throat guy liked a different hospital. So I had to go home for one day while they got the paperwork and stuff ready for me to go back out to Buffalo again to hospital number 2 to have the actual surgery. And of course, when I saw my ear, nose, and throat guy at the hospital, and I complained to him and I said that I was intending to file a report on that neurosurgeon for his mistreatment of me and his blatant lack of care for his patient. And he said he was really sorry that I had gone through that, and he would make sure that his team took good care of me during my surgical procedure. So in the hospital I go to have the tumor removed. And at that time, of course, they're still calling it this vascular thing that's a blown up mess of veins in an artery or whatever that needs to be removed. So they bring me in. I'm telling you, I never saw that many people coming in and out of a surgery room before. I don't know how many people. I bet you they had 80 people scheduled that day. So I ended up in my bed, and you wait. They line you up outside the surgical room. There's several surgical bays in there, and they just come running in with patients, running out with patients, running in with. And finally they came over, and I tell the girl, which, let's show you, you can see it right there. That's my vein that I always have them draw blood on. You can see it clear as day. It's nice and large. I finally had an experience with a nurse who couldn't stick me. I was surprised because I've never ever had anybody who actually couldn't. But this one who was supposed to put the anesthesia in, the port in for all my anesthesia during the surgery, she actually missed the vein. So they had to bring another nurse over, and she said, I don't know why she missed it. I got it, no problem. So I was all set, had my thing put in. Doctor came over, was talking to me. Another physician that was assisting him came over, nice guy. And even a female doctor was over there. And they all came in and chat with me and said they were going to take good care of me. Going to go in. They would make sure I was out cold. I would feel nothing, and they were going to remove that tumor. And I would wake up and then go back to my room once I was stable. And that's exactly what happened. I went in, and I don't even think I remember being knocked out. I was out cold. Whatever they put in my arm, I was out. Thank God, I felt nothing. I woke up. I was in my bed, being taken back out to the recovery area, and as soon as all my vitals and everything were all stable, they came and they took me up to my room, and tumor was gone. So they came in later and said that they had removed a 4-inch by 2-inch tumor out of my neck, and that it was in fact a Warthin's tumor. So my ear, nose, and throat guy was quite shocked. He really thought it was something else. So anyway, there's the scar. I'm not good with moving my hand and watching the camera. And then there's another set of them a little lower that you can't see really good, where they had a drain. They'd cut a hole and put a drain in there, so I came out with this long tube with a ball on the end. I call them hand grenades. And where they squeeze it and then let go, and it just slowly siphons the fluids out of your neck. So I spent the night in the hospital. The next day, of course, they were monitoring me, giving me heparin, which is a blood thinner, so I wouldn't develop any blood clots after surgery. And then the following day, I was allowed to go home, and a physician's assistant had come in and removed the drain, which was weird, though, because for about 2 hours after that, this clear liquid just kept dripping down my neck. It was the weirdest thing. But they said it was kind of usual and not to be worried about it, and that I could go home. So my son and granddaughter came and, no, my son and my daughter-in-law actually came and got me from the hospital and took me home. And the stitches didn't have to be removed. They were the removable kind, and it was all stitched and glued. He put a ton of glue on it. It looked like big piles of plastic on my neck. And I had to follow up with him about a week later, which I did, and that's when he informed me that it was in fact a Warthin's tumor. And he said he could remove that glue. He said, but it was better let it to dissolve, fall off on its own, and I was good to go. So that took up, from start to finish, from the first time I went to my doctor and said, let's address this big ass tumor lump in my neck, until it was actually removed, was months. It was a procedure of events that lasted months. So that's that story, the story of the tumor. Up next, my lathe experiences. Another aspect of where I've been for ever and ever and ever